Hello everyone. In this video we'll have a closer look on user rights and licenses in Reonic. To access the user rights and license menu, you need to go to settings, and in here you will find the users and the license and billing menu. We'll start with the users here, and you can see we already have created a few users. You can see their name, the email address, a photo or profile picture if they have already saved one here. And then there is role, licenses, permissions, and rights. So stuff that we can all set and make sure that they work. How are we doing that? We'll create a new user altogether and make sure that we go through every single part here of the setting items. So let's go to add user here at the top right, and we'll give it a name and an email. I'll just give it a different suffix here because I've already created the .de several times. The cool thing is that you can now set the role here straight up when you create the user. Obviously these can be changed later on. And what does the role mean basically? So an admin, so to say, obviously has admin rights to the account, so can access everything, including the settings, including the user rights, including the margins, the components, everything. And then we have editor and viewer, and editor and viewer are a bit more restricted. So editors, for example, cannot access the settings at all, and the components only if they have the special right to. Also, they cannot see margins in the system, and you can even restrict their access to the tool further, but we'll look at this in a minute. And the viewer basically can have the same user rights as the editor, with the exception that the viewer can't edit stuff. So it's just some a role basically to look at stuff, so nothing can be changed, not even notes. So it's a very limited role, usually used for controlling or someone external that was just checking in. In this case, we'll set the role as an editor, and then you have the option to give it a further specification, which is called external user. And the external user will, if I'm setting this mark here, allow us only to see the projects that this user has either self-created or was assigned to. So basically, if your sales personnel should not look left and right and only focus on the offers they are doing, this is the perfect setting for it. Or if you have subcontractors who are also working on the tool and should only see their projects, this is the way to go. So they will only see their requests, offers, and installation if you are assigning them to them directly. Otherwise, the Kanban is empty. You can also send a welcome mail. If I take this here, this person will receive a welcome mail with a link that jumps straight to the login mask. Obviously, if you're preparing the account and just setting up, I would leave this mark unticked, so users only log in if you really want to. Perfect. So let's hit save here and create Timo. And once he's been created, we'll be able to look at the settings together and make sure that that all the other permissions and rights and licenses are assigned. So here he is. So we can see licenses, permissions, and rights are not yet filled in. So what we do is we click here on the name, and this little menu pops up. We can then obviously switch the role back if we want. We can do this all the time. And we can assign a license, which is what in the end enables us to work on Reonic basically. So without a license, you cannot really do stuff. This is also what you'll be billed for later on. So you usually need a household collaborator license to have access to the residential or household area. You can also have a B360 or commercial license to access the commercial part. You can also have both. And then there is components and settings, which is basically what I just said. You either need to be admin or you need to be having given this right by an admin to access the components, for example. Fantastic. So let's assign a license here. In this case, we want to assign the household collaborator license. It's also written here what this will give you the rights for, so requests, offers, and installations. We also have an installer license, which only gives you access to the installation part. Let's have a look. If I create here and assign the license, I will now have the option to grant access to these areas here. If I want to give access to the V360 part, it will also tell me, hey, you need a special license for this to be able to grant access. Interestingly, you can also limit the access within your household collaborator license. So if the person should not have access to requests and offers, but only requests and installations, but only for offers, then this is also possible. If the person should have access to all these three areas, then these should be ticked. As we have now assigned the license and the permissions, we can move down further and look at rights. This is quite insightful. So we can say that within the usage of the portal, there are further ways to restrict or enable users to do certain things. Let's go through them. First thing is, can this user assign other users or other teams to a request, offer, or installation? Very important. There's always also a little info icon on the right, which will help you to understand what this right does. Let's give this right to the user. And then there's also the option to override planned component prices. So within an offer, there is an option to override prices without touching the component database. This is obviously also a right which should be used very carefully, because you can rewrite the component price, and this can have obviously impacts on margin and on final offer sum. Similarly, custom discounts, if this is not ticked, people will only be able to give discounts up on your templates that you created. If this is, however, ticked, the person will be able to add a custom discount for every project that he's working on. Added the PDF and digital offer settings. This is also quite an exciting one. So in here, if we tick this, a person is able to change the PDF and offer settings within a planning. So without needing to go to the settings, he or she can make changes like switch to a different cover letter, or change the order, or take out a few chapters, or even add a few chapters just for a specific project. This is also interesting. This will allow a user to move a request into an offer. This will allow a user to move an offer into an installation. So basically moving a project further into the funnel. If this is ticked, they are allowed to do this. If not, they cannot really move it to the next stage. Then create custom components. That's also interesting. I'll be creating a separate video just for this. It is possible to create custom components that don't have to necessarily be present in the component database of yours. So you can create them while you're in the offer and just for the offer, if you allow the user to do this. And then we have a few services that we can have access to. Photogrammetry is basically for drone images in your PV planning. We'll do a separate video on this. And then there is subsidy service, which is for the German market only. So if you're watching this from another market, not really interesting for you at the moment. Similarly for grid registration, that is usually just German features. And lastly, quite an important one, edit the deal value. So it is possible to edit the deal value in a project. Basically, after something is signed and you agree on a different price, if you have this right, you can create changes to the deal value, which will then be shown in the Kanban board and later on also in the dashboard for reporting purposes. Fantastic. Lastly, we'll have a look on licenses and billing, which is the menu point just above users. And in here, you can either view your invoices, so whatever is currently open to you, you can just open this here in the new tab. You'll be directly given access to all the invoices that you have paid and that are due and that will be due in the future. So quite helpful. Also, we have an FAQ for all the questions that you might have when it comes to invoicing. And if we scroll down further, we see the licenses that we are currently paying for, the licenses which are currently not assigned to a user, because licenses can be floating. You pay for a license as soon as you add it, and you still pay for it if you, for example, delete the user for it to not appear on your monthly bill, so you just click here on the three dots and return paid license. It will also then show you a little icon and an indication of how this impacts the bill for the next month or for the current month. Similarly, if you want to add a license, you just click here, add license, and then you select collaborator, viewer, the area of what you want the license to be valid for, and later on or how many licenses you want to purchase. And again here, after saying I want to confirm this, it will give you an overview of what additional cost you can expect on the next bill that you have. That being said, can't highlight this too much. You are paying for all the licenses in here, even if they're not assigned. So make sure if they're not assigned that you hand them back or you give them to someone that is in the system. Moving back to users, obviously we can then, if we go back to Team or Test, also remove licenses from the user and reassign, obviously. Fantastic. I hope you liked the video. Stay tuned for the next one and see you soon.